And Texas A&M just lost to Alabama, which, by the way, if there's one thing that me and you have in common, it's the hatred that Alabama fans have for us. By the way, I mean, the comments are ridiculous. I don't know. They hate
I haven't bothered reading those comments.
They hate us. Man, I don't know. I don't know if this A&M team's got it this week. I don't. What is this front? What is this D line going to do? Now, parts of this, to me, is one of the most intriguing games of the weekend because Joe Milton can't throw the football. Joe, they're having to run the ball ad nauseum to win football games.
Wait, so the funniest part about that, and I'm glad that you bring that up. So he's struggling. He's turning the ball over. His completion percentage is bad. The thing that it doesn't make any sense to me, I'm watching the tape and I'm like, why are they throwing the ball so much? They throw the ball like 30 plus times a game when you've got Joe Milton, who's a good runner, and you've got two really good running backs with Jalen Wright and Jabari Small. They should have 45 plus rushing attempts amongst that entire group.
They're not that far. They're not that far. I think they have like 38 per game.
There's just some drives though where they'll go like 3-4 plays in a row throwing, and they should stop doing that.
But you know what? This is what makes Josh Heupel a genius, and why I think Tennessee's going to win this weekend. I think that A&M is a dying dog to some degree, pun intended. But you know what Heupel does when they're not running the football? He is going to put 4 receivers out wide. They're going to play, I don't know, what would you call that? It's not a bunch, but it's kind of a bunch where the 2 receivers are lined up right behind each other, and he's going to throw screens. You're going to have to cover it. Sorry, you're going to have to cover it. And then when you go out and you get out of the box, he's going to run the football. Tennessee needs a big win, okay? And I think that they're going to get it here. I just don't like this for A&M going on the road after a devastating loss at home. And there's a lot of chirping in Aggie land this week after Jimbo and this team lost. There's a lot of questions about him as a coach, even more now because of the way that he called that game. Joe, here's the truth. All week, you know what we should have been talking about? Let me tell you what we should have been talking about. Because we should have been talking about A&M beating Bama because they gave that game away. They gave that game away. And they got dudes all over the place. Brother, if Deion Sanders was at A&M right now, they'd be undefeated. If a better coach was at A&M right now, and I even throw Deion in there because it's his first year as a Power 5 head coach. Any other coach in the country with that talent, they would be undefeated. And we'd be talking about a one-loss Tennessee and an undefeated Texas A&M. But I think they're done. But the thing that gets me, though, if A&M's defensive line shows up and you put the ball in Joe Milton's hands, this could be a long game. Now, A&M's not out of winning the SEC West. They're not. They're one SEC loss. They could run the table and win out and go into the SEC championship game.
Very optimistic. That's very optimistic.
Well, I don't like saying that teams are dead, their season's dead, because it's not dead. It's just not. Mathematically, it's not dead. It will be Saturday, though.
Yeah, math's for nerds. We're not nerds. Come on now.
Have you looked in the mirror?
Okay, just because I wear the glasses makes me a nerd?
It's not his fault he's a nerd. I don't think he's a nerd, dude.
I think, though, that what you're saying, Texas A&M needs this win. But dude, Tennessee is not what they were last year. Tennessee's not a top 10 team, but they're still one of the better teams in a down year in the SEC. I think as they try to figure out this offensive identity, this is a really good week for them to do so, to figure out how they can really use the run game to galvanize the offense and stop setting up Joe Milton for failure. If Joe Milton throws the ball too much, it probably means that they're going to lose the game. If they lost the game, I could probably say, did he have 35 plus passing attempts? Oh, he did. Oh, he threw a pick and had a fumble. Oh yeah, it was because Joe Milton made some mistakes. He's not a bad quarterback, but if he's one of those guys that needs to be properly supported and everything needs to go his way and the run game needs to be moving. But as we saw against Florida, you take the run game out, he starts to overthink. He can't really see the field that well at times, and it leads to mistakes. I think what scares the shit out of me if I'm Texas A&M, is how good that defensive line is.
Dude,
Part of me wonders if
Joe, can we
take
take a moment of silence for them being the best defensive line in the country and this team being complete ass?
Number 1 in team sacks, and they're number 3 in teams tackles for loss. James Pierce Jr. I sent you a clip that I pulled up where he planted the South Carolina offensive lineman with basically one arm. What he did, that dude is a freak, and he's a true sophomore. Imagine if Tennessee had that defensive line last year. They would have won. They would have been in the national championship.
Well, I got to tell you something. Tennessee defensively, they get after it.
They're good. It's weird.
Good. So Heupel was asked this week. I don't know if you saw this. Heupel was asked this week, hey, why does everybody think that you're only a passing offense and you running the ball so effectively? And he goes, because they don't watch the games. They run the ball, man. And I know our buddy Sean Anderson's in here, and he said,
I don't know if that's my Sean Anderson. I was wondering that if that happens to be another Sean Anderson. But sorry, continue.
Regardless, they do run the ball effectively. I don't know. I think they're going to have to put the ball in Milton's hands and make him throw it, because I think this D-line is too good at A&M. But you know what gets me up behind that, though, Joe? Like, what really just – I can't stop thinking about it when I think of this game. Heupel's got 2 weeks. Heupel has 2 weeks with Joe Milton to scheme up this defense. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I'm going to go to the Vols, and here's another thing. That game is in Knoxville. If this game were in Aggie land, I'd probably feel a different way. It's not. I think the Aggies roll. I mean, I think the Vols roll here, man. That's just me.